happiness. That's Life Unlimited.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Another battleground state, North Carolina, begins early voting today. Yesterday, Georgia saw a record turnout in its first day of early voting. Last night, Kamala Harris, appearing on Fox News, she sparred with anchor Brett Baer on immigration and policy positions. Harris says if elected, she would not represent a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. Donald Trump appeared on Fox News and Spanish language network Univision for town halls. Trump looking to appeal to women and Latinos. Trump raising eyebrows for calling the riots of January 6th a day of love. Fans are mourning the death of Liam Payne, a former member of the British boy band One Direction. Police in Argentina say the 31-year-old died after falling from the 3rd floor of a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires. Officers went to the hotel after receiving a 911 call about an aggressive man, possibly under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Authorities are investigating the circumstances of his death and have not determined an official cause. The United States launching airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen. The rebel group is backed by Iran. The U.S. targeted 5 underground weapons storage facilities using B-2 stealth bombers. The move is the latest back-and-forth attacks between the U.S. and the Houthis, which have reportedly been carrying out attacks on commercial shipping and U.S. Navy assets. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Mel Carpenter. Much cooler weather settling in across the eastern half of the United States. We have temperatures below the average once again. From Raleigh all the way down to Atlanta, we're going to be in the low to middle 60s, low to middle 70s along the Gulf Coast into portions of Florida, and our temperatures in the northern plains will eventually start to warm up as we head into this upcoming weekend. As far as active weather goes, we're going to be pretty dry and quiet as well, with high pressure and full control of our weather pattern, with the exception of the Rockies. We have some active weather across there with even some significant snowfall. We'll talk about that and more coming up in 10 minutes on your Weather on the Ones.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Thursday, October 17th. Our top story, North Carolina begins early voting with just 19 days until Election Day. North Carolina is a state both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris have been battling for. The two candidates both appearing on Fox News yesterday. Kamala Harris with a heated interview touching on topics like transgender care and the southern border. And Donald Trump answering questions about reproductive health in front of an all-female audience. The former president also appearing at a town hall on the Spanish-speaking network Univision. Our Angie Gonzalez joins us now to tell us about early voting starting today. Angie.
Yeah, Bree, North Carolina is the latest state to kick off early voting. And one of the things that we're going to be watching for are participation numbers. Now, parts of the state, of course, still reeling after Hurricane Helene devastated communities late last month. Some potential voters still don't have power or even clean running water. More than 400 locations across the state's 100 counties, though, are going to be open today for the 17-day early voting period. Now, Bree, early voting was very popular among North Carolina residents back in 2020 for the last presidential election. 65% of all votes cast that year in North Carolina were cast using early voting. Bree.
And Angie, both Trump and Harris took part in media events yesterday. The former president participated in a town hall and the vice president sat down for an interview with Fox News. What can you tell us about those?
Well, Harris and Trump both fielded some tough questions, Bree. For Trump, anyway, they came from members of the Hispanic community during a town hall hosted by the Spanish language television network Univision. Now, the former president fielded questions on immigration, the economy, and other issues, and Trump doubled down on two claims. Now, he stood by debunked accusations that he made during the debate with Harris last month about Haitian migrants eating pets in Springfield, Ohio, and also said said this about the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
That was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands.
Now, Harris sat down for what ended up being a very tense interview with Bret Baier of Fox News. Harris answered a wide range of questions and said that her presidency would not be a continuation of the Biden administration. Here's one exchange that she had with Baier on the border.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
Now, Bree, later today, Trump's going to be attending a charity dinner in New York City. Harris is going to be campaigning in Wisconsin. Back to you.
Angie Gonzalez, thank you very much, Angie. New overnight, the U.S. launching airstrikes targeting underground bunkers used by Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi rebel group. Officials say long-range B-2 stealth bombers were used in the attack. Those bombers are capable of carrying weapons used to destroy fortified underground targets. The strike appears to be an indirect warning to Iran, the Houthis' main benefactor. In a statement, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called the strikes a unique demonstration of the United States' ability to target facilities that our adversaries seek to keep out of reach, no matter how deeply buried underground, hardened, or fortified. Happening today, President Joe Biden travels to Berlin, Germany, where he's expected to discuss support for Ukraine with European leaders. Officials say Biden is set to meet with the German, French, and British heads of state tomorrow. Those countries and the U.S. are some of Ukraine's top arms suppliers.
Every country has to make its own decisions based on their capabilities, based on their budgets, about what they can do.
The trip coming a day after the White House unveiled another $425 million in military aid for Ukraine. But this might be a precarious moment for the war-torn nation. American support hangs in the balance as the U.S. election approaches. Authorities are continuing to investigate the death of former One Direction singer Liam Payne. Payne fell to his death from a Buenos Aires hotel. Spectrum News anchor Jenna Enoch joins me now with the latest. Jenna.
Bree, we're still waiting on an autopsy and, of course, more details from investigators on what led up to his death. Fans gathered outside the hotel where Liam Payne died, putting candles and mourning the artist. Investigators say he fell from the third floor of a hotel in Buenos Aires yesterday. The former member of boy band One Direction was 31 years old. Staff at the hotel called 911 to request urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's fall, according to a local television affiliate, Todo Noticias. The hotel manager was heard on that call saying there was a guest, quote, tearing the whole room apart. The manager described the guest as being overwhelmed with drugs and alcohol. Again, authorities are still investigating what led up to his death. We'll know more once that autopsy results come back. And Payne was one of 5 members of One Direction, which formed when they each auditioned for the British singing competition series, The X Factor, back in 2010. Bree, back to you.
Jenna, thank you very much. Former President Jimmy Carter has now voted in the 2024 presidential election. A spokesperson for the Carter Center says the former president cast his ballot by mail yesterday. Carter, who recently turned 100 years old, lives in the swing state of Georgia. The Democrat has been in hospice care since February 2023. A community of hundreds of thousands in Texas is still without drinkable water after nearly a week. We'll have the latest developments in that story coming up.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
What if you never had to worry about what you could do? Because you could do anything. Anywhere could be the center of everywhere. And boundaries only existed to be pushed. So the only limit you faced is how big you could dream. What would you do then? Some pretty cool stuff, I bet. Yeah, that'd be some life. That'd be life unlimited.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. We have quiet weather across the eastern half of the United States and even some cool weather for that matter as well. So make plans to get outside over the next couple of days because our weather pattern will be changing. Meanwhile, out west, that's where the active storm track is. We have this upper level system tracking across the Rockies, which is bringing some of the first snowfall of the season up into portions of Colorado, Utah as well, and even the risk for some severe thunderstorms possible as we head into the next couple of days as well. We'll break it down with forecast radar. We are going to see quiet weather out east, and then here comes some shower activity, even some snowfall up towards Montana, parts of Wyoming, even into Idaho as well. And watch out down towards New Mexico and parts of Arizona where we are expecting some isolated thunderstorms that could bring down some heavier rainfall, some lightning, and even some small hail possibility as well. But here comes some of that snowfall across the Rockies as we get into Friday afternoon. And this is going to be pretty significant as well, especially up into some of those higher elevations. It's where we're expecting some of the highest snowfall totals. Here we are overnight, Friday night into Saturday morning, some isolated thunderstorms pushing through Colorado, down into portions of New Mexico, and even into Texas could see some of those thunderstorms as well. And some of those could be marginally severe, not a big severe weather risk by any means, but this is all associated with this upper level system that's going to be working across the Rockies over the course of this upcoming weekend. As far as rainfall totals go, and some of the heaviest rainfall we're expecting, we're going to see rainfall totals in that 3 to 5 inch range in parts of Colorado, especially in the eastern portions of the state, down into Texas as well as New Mexico. And notice things are going to continue to stay pretty dry and quiet with high pressure and control over the weekend. Great deal of sunshine in the forecast. I did mention some significant snowfall on the way though for parts of Colorado, specifically up into some of those higher elevations where we could see well over a foot, maybe even a foot and a half by the time we get to the end of this upcoming weekend. Now, as far as freeze and frost alerts go, we are expecting most of that to stay out into the western half of the United States, staying pretty dry and quiet though across the southeast, which means warmer temperatures on the horizon. We'll talk about that and more coming up in 10 minutes.
Well, if you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Just one day after Georgia saw a record turnout in first-day early voting, another battleground state, North Carolina, begins early voting today. Last night, Kamala Harris appearing on Fox News, sparring with anchor Bret Baier on immigration and policy positions. Donald Trump appearing on Fox News and Spanish language network Univision for town halls. Trump looking to appeal to women and Hispanic voters. Fans are mourning the death of Liam Payne, a former member of the British boy band One Direction. Police in Argentina say the 31-year-old died after falling from the 3rd floor of a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires. And the United States launching airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen. The rebel group is backed by Iran. The U.S. targeted 5 underground weapon storage facilities using B-2 stealth bombers. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Right now, the city of Laredo, Texas, is still without drinkable water, and it's been that way for a week now. City officials, residents, and business owners saying they are struggling to go about their daily routines after E. coli was found in the water supply. Our John Salazar has been following the story and has the latest from Texas.
Daily water distribution, shelves empty of cases of water, restaurants forced to boil water, and more simple luxuries in life, like coffee, are gone. At least until the city of Laredo finds a fix to the E. coli outbreak plaguing their citywide fresh water system.
We'll continue to work. We've been working day and night, flushing the pipes.
Together with Laredo staff, like the TCEQ and Texas Department of Emergency Management, are working to narrow down the breach or breaches of where and how the bacterium E. coli entered the city's drinking water.
We are not here to do the easy parts of the job. We are here as elected and times like these to tell people the truth of our situation, how we're going to get out of this mess.
The mess of contaminated drinking water is now on day 6, and locals are fed up with loading up cases of water just to survive on. For some, public apologies are not enough.
Man, all I can do is really apologize for that, but I want everybody to understand that we're not avoiding this thing.
Sorry is not enough. Remember, you need to walk your talk.
At last count, according to Senator Judith Zaffirini, 30,000 cases and some 725,000 bottles of water have been given to the public just to get by. And the city has notified the public through social media posts that high bacteria counts have been located, and the investigators have found evidence of illegal connections to the city's fresh water supply. As of late Wednesday, the city said they needed at least another 24 hours to get the water crisis under control. Until the source of contamination is identified and all the lines are cleared throughout the city, the boil notice remains in effect. Reporting from the border, John Salazar, Spectrum News.
In the aftermath of a hurricane, recovery efforts are understandably focused on restoring critical infrastructure and clearing debris. But what about other key services like mail delivery? Our Jason Lanning is in Florida, speaking with residents who are still struggling to return to normalcy.
Even if you don't live in an area impacted by damage or flooding, the USPS has been stretched very thin. It still has more than a dozen post offices shut down because of hurricane damage. One of them is right here in Town and Country. And it also has a backlog of packages in some areas stacked up since Hurricane Helene. And then there are roads still littered and lined with debris, slowing down a carrier's regular day's work. For those that rely on P.O. boxes at the 17 post offices closed, well, some of them haven't been able to get mail in more than 3 weeks. Karen Olson, who lives here in Town and Country, is one of them.
The post office, the lobby's been out of commission since Helene. I can't get my mail. There's no way in. I came in to try and get it, and the whole lobby is full of sewage.
Yeah.
And stuff, so.
Are you getting any updates as to what's going on? Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Yeah. In a media blast this week, the USPS says it is working as fast as it can to restore mail service and get caught up. But it says, quote, there is significant work to be done to deliver a backlog of mail and packages and reopen routes in the areas hit hardest by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. The full recovery of service to the area may stretch forward for some time. Until then, the USPS has been working to set up alternate sites for those post offices that are closed. For more information on those sites, we've got a link posted on our website. In Town and Country, Jason Lanning, Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, we'll introduce you to a Kentucky teacher who puts a special spin on his love of music. Stay with us.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
never have to worry about thinking too big? Because you have a connection that's ready for anything. That's Life Unlimited. That's Spectrum.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Thursday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. Upper level weather pattern looking pretty good across the eastern half of the United States. We've got lots of drier air working its way across the southeast, which is making for some nice conditions outdoors. Great weather to have those windows open. Meanwhile, out west, though, that's where things are going to be a little bit more active with some snowfall and chances for severe thunderstorms. Temperature-wise today, though, should be pretty pleasant across the southeast again. We're going to see those highs in the low 60s from Raleigh into Atlanta, low to middle 70s from Tampa all the way down through New Orleans and parts of Texas, which were in the low to middle 90s earlier this week. So quite the difference in temperatures for the second half of this week. Meanwhile, we are going to start to see warmer temperatures take shape and surge northward as an upper level system begins to work its way into that direction. We're going to see those temperatures get back into the mid 70s by Friday afternoon up in Minneapolis. Notice to the west of that, we're going to see temperatures in the 50s, upper 60s to near 70 across the southeast as we head into the end of this week. Beautiful weather all across the eastern half of the United States with high pressure in full control. I mentioned earlier, 10 minutes ago, we have some of those freeze and frost alerts across the western half of the United States. Temperatures are still going to be pretty chilly, though, across the eastern half. Later tonight, we fall down to the middle and upper 30s for parts of the southeast. And by the time we wake up on Friday morning, we're going to be waking up in the mid 50s from New Orleans all the way down into Tampa. That is going to feel quite refreshing. A little bit warmer, but still chilly nonetheless as we head into Friday night into Saturday morning. Middle and upper 30s from St. Louis to Columbus, Ohio, and into the 40s from Raleigh into Atlanta Saturday morning. So we're starting the weekend off with some cool weather, but we are going to be warming up temperature-wise in the northern plains, about 20 plus degrees above the average in Minneapolis. We may even flirt with some of the low 80s and some potential record highs in some of those areas. About 10 to 15 degrees above the average from parts of Chicago into New York as well. 3-day forecast is still looking pretty good, though, as we head into this upcoming weekend. We're going to be in the low to middle 70s as we head into Saturday and Sunday. Great deal of sunshine. Make plans to get outside and take full advantage of that because our weather pattern is going to be changing. If you were hoping for some of that cooler weather to stick around, as we get towards the end of next week, the cooler weather looks to shift to the Pacific Northwest, well below the average for this time of year in parts of the southeast. Eastern half of the United States going to be dealing with above average temperatures and potential record-breaking highs as we get into the end of this month. Quick check of the tropics. We're monitoring 2 systems, but no named systems at this moment in time across the Atlantic basin, and both of them have low odds for tropical development. And as we get into the rest of this month, we have about a month and a half to go for the hurricane season, getting closer and closer to the end.
On the lighter side now, a Kentucky college professor is taking a unique approach to making music. Spectrum's Kiati Patel is in the Bluegrass State with more.
He's an artist whose hands not only create beautiful music, but creates beautiful musical instruments. Here on the campus of Georgetown College, Professor Daniel Graham lives his best life, crafting a variety of musical instruments, each by hand.
So I thought it was time to learn a song or two on a banjo. And so, being a craftsman, I had to make a banjo to learn how to play the banjo. So made my first banjo and started playing just a few minutes a day to slow my life down. and then found my way into making other instruments like violins, fiddles, dulcimers, and guitars. All the while just kind of finding a new story in each instrument and a new way of working every time, so it's kind of a way of exploring something I already knew really well, like woodworking, but just from a different perspective every time.
Using a variety of tools, Daniel's able to use his woodworking mastery to make ordinary objects and turn them into a musical works of art.
I make a variety of instruments, and depending upon what it's made out of or what it is, depends on the length of time. Also, how many details or interesting kind of elements get blended into it. So whether it's inlay or some sort of special treatment to the wood or the special type of wood that it is, will change the time. Anywhere from a couple of months to 6 or 7 months, depending upon the project. I've had projects that came from different areas of the country that required a lot more time and labor to make the wood stable and dry, but also just depends on what goes into it.
No two instruments created in this workshop are alike. Daniel's creations may begin using traditional materials, but many are finished by incorporating objects not usually thought of when creating an instrument.
Outside of traditional materials such as wood and steel and such forth, I've made a lot of instruments out of unusual materials or objects such as tea kettles, or I made one recently out of human bones from a medical collection. But I've also made them out of gourds from your garden.
Daniel's creations have been requested by musicians worldwide. He takes pride in not only making the instruments, but in knowing he has made an impact on the music world with every piece he creates.
When you make an instrument, you realize you're allowing someone to express themselves creatively, so you're creating tools for other people to create, rather than you just creating the thing yourself.
Instruments, amazing sounds from here in the bluegrass.
I take great pleasure and great joy in making these things, but I also get excited about how unique each one of them is. There's no real rules to making a banjo, so you can make it out of just about anything you want and make it fit yourself or some other idea that you have. So it is running down the rabbit holes, and that's really exciting. Excitement with every crafted instrument he creates and every final note strummed. In Scott County, Kathy Patel, Spectrum News.
And you can always stay connected with us here at Spectrum News by getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum Enterprise, we give over 80% of the Fortune 500 the technology solutions they need to meet their growing business demands. Whether it's ultra-fast connectivity, seamless transactions, safe and secure data, or reliable always-on technology, these businesses demand better, and we're here to deliver it. Get a network you can rely on with our 100% uptime SLA guarantee.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
to show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say. Save it.
It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.